we'll just a bit more of the red, I think, rather than the green. Just fill a few in, just somewhere along those lines. Squish that in there. Alright, well that's basically got me a feel of what I want. Now I'll go for some other shadow colours, not quite as dark as that. So I've got some yellow ochre and burnt sienna. What happens if I just put a bit of magenta near the edge of that? Let's have a look at that colour. Magenta with yellow ochre. Now I'm going to get a bit of ultramarine blue because I want some cool shadows, but I also want some warm shadows. So kind of like a complementary colour version. So there'll be some cool shadows where there's reflecting the sky, I guess you could say, into the picture. That's with that cool stuff. And then the warmer shadows will be from the underside where the sun has already hit the ground and bouncing back up, like so, and creating some underlit light, like this. But we don't want to get too fussy at the moment, it's just getting the feel for it. Right, now, ultramarine blue, white, bit of burnt sienna. I'll stand back from and have a look what I'm doing here. Right, that goes through there. That can go along like that. Just quickly blocking in the darkest dark, like I said, and then you can work with other stuff after that. Let's just get a few lines hang on. We'll just change tack for a minute. I'll get some burnt sienna and viridian green, bit of yellow ochre, just make a bit of a foliage colour. Twang of white in that to lighten the value. Right. That's alright, I'll just put a bit more of the shadows in while I'm at it. Just trying to create a little bit of a headland up here. Let me just stand back from and have a look. Alright, what I will do is get some white, bit of magenta, just knock up a little bit more of those shadowy tonal values. It's kind of like what you've got up here is you've got the foliage growing on the sand dune itself. So with the sand dune, the beach sand is a very light tonal value, and because of that it's creating beautiful cool shadow contrast. So I'll just stick them in as it runs along the beach, but also it lightens in value as it recedes off into the distance. It gets more atmospheric effect, gets lighter and slightly cooler. So when it's in the foreground here, it's got a little bit more magenta. As it goes back, just more of the ultramarine blue and less of the magenta in it. With more white, so it's a lighter value. White, blue. How far back do we want to go? Maybe about that, somewhere along there. Just going to be running slightly downhill. Alright. Now a bit more of that yellow ochre and burnt sienna mixed back into that foliage type colour. Somewhere along those lines. this tape, I don't know what I'm thinking there, that tape doesn't actually belong there. Let's just break a bit of that tape off. What I want to do is I want to create a horizon line. I'll just work out where I want the horizon to be today. I reckon it's about here, around about there. Just put that in. And what you can do is you can use a square for that. I should have probably done that before I put that in, but see, you can use a square and get it exact, or you can measure. That's pretty good, so we'll go with that. There's the horizon line, so we can work from there, paint down. Right, what do we got? Go for some ultramarine blue, white, just establish what we think we're going to get somewhere near the horizon. What tonal value? It's a long way off, so I want to lighten it off because this painting, like I said, is all about near to far. So I'll establish that, maybe about that for now. But then what I'll do is, if I need to lighten it, I will lighten it. We'll just take that off. That's already served its purpose. There we go. Bit of a bin run. Alright, let's get stuck into this. Okay, more of the burnt siennas, ultramarine blues, get some darks going in the burnt sienna ultramarine blue. Just going to feel my way along here, along the coastline. Some of the beautiful low tide effects that you get. Just put them in quickly for now. We just can be more refined later on. Yellow ochre I'm mixing now with a bit of burnt sienna. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna. Just get that in nicely. A bit more yellow ochre. Viridian green even, so yellow ochre and viridian green, we'll mix that up as well. For some of the weed on top of these. Got the seaweed on top of the low tide rocks. Work out which way you want the forms to be. Go for more of that yellow ochre. Pretty in green. Stick some of that in there, beautiful. Just feeling our way, feeling our way. Rub back. Just going to take a little bit off here as I go. Just introduce a little bit of the blue. There we go, a little bit of blue can go in here. And it's going to be a lot of stuff just getting laid in like I'm doing at the moment. And all shall be revealed later on. I'm just putting some of that sky blue. At the moment the sky's not blue, but I'm going to put the sky blue in. And this is some of the reflections from the sky down into the wetness. Darken that off, get that lovely, a nice shadow in there, nice dark shadow. Alright, let me just see if I've got the balance right. Alright, well that's coming along alright now. I'll change tack a little bit. I'll just go for some white. I'm just going to make some light tonal V's now. The sky itself is not really done at all yet, so yellow ochre, burnt sienna and white. I might just get a few of those blues that I had earlier. Just trying to get a fairly neutral colour. It's misted off. There's a lot of coastal haze and we're looking with a lot of salt air, so we're trying to make a keyed down sort of haze version to give the illusion of distance. So you've got the foreground near to far. That's all about perspective today. So we'll see what we can do. Tiniest bit of magenta, just looking at that. A little bit of magenta in that. That's a fairly neutral colour, but it's got a kind of warmness about it through the ochres. But I've knocked some of the ochres back by putting the blues and whatever in. It's just not quite as strong an ochre as it could be with just ochres and white, because I've stuck the blue in, which is the opposite of the colour wheel pretty much. It's just graded ever so slightly, so you can still see it's got that nice ochre-y sunny day. It's just not too strong. Can run through there like that. Like that. Just block that in nicely. Recording? Good. Always got to check, don't you? Always got to check, you never know. Okay, so there we go, we got that in. Lovely. Why don't we just go up a layer now? We'll just go for a little bit more of the blue dominant. Going through plenty of that white's always the way. Yeah, we'll go a bit more yellow ochre again. Yellow ochre in there. And blue. It's light tonal value. Still a little ochre-y dominant, but a little bit more blue because the sky is now starting, as we're getting up, there's a little less atmosphere. And a little bit more of the sky blue colour shining through. So put that on. There we go. That goes on nicely. Look at that. Plenty of paint going on there. Let's go up a layer. White. Blue. In this case I've got ultramarine blue. Doesn't really matter. I vary the blues a lot. There's no real reason. You can use any sort of blue basically and get most of the effects you want, because usually most of the colouring you're doing is a slightly keyed down version anyway, so it's always got, when you're painting rallies, usually always got a bit of some other colour mixed in as well. So if you've got a red blue, like ultramarine, and then you put a little bit of yellow in, it kind of just knocks it back that bit. But if you've got a blue that's already got a bit of yellow, and then you stick a bit of red in, same sort of deal. So to me, I don't really mind too much. It's just what I've got on hand at the moment, and it looked like it'd come in handy for this particular painting for that reason, because I had plenty of it. So there you go. Tiny bit more blue. It's getting cleaner as I go up. Less of the other colours involved. More of the blue. And if you're looking straight up into the sky, like completely straight up, it'd be as blue as, but not here, not. This is still really looking fairly low in the sky, I'd imagine. It's not looking too high up. Alright, that's going good. Don't want to wear any paint. Now, I will use a little bit of brush today, not too much. And the brush is mainly going to be just to soften. I'll block all these things in with a palette knife, boom, 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 boom. And then get the brush out and just run it through and it'll just soften it that little bit. So, but for now, I'll stand back and have a look, see what I got. Yeah, all right. When was the last time I did that one? That cartridge is pretty much done. Just needed a bit more white, a little stingy on the white. That cartridge is done, but I've got some other white here, thankfully. The cartridge was no good, so we'll go for the old tin. Just looking around for other cartridges, didn't have any, but of course I got the tin, and the tin's probably even better because, like I've said before, when you've got the tin, you can always, if the paint's still clean and you haven't messed it up too much, you can always bung it back in there, knock it all flat, put the lid on, and she'll still last for quite a while. So that's always a good one. All right, what are we up to? White. Tiniest bit of Viridian green maybe. Bit of green. Just trying to knock up a little bit of a colour now for the sea itself. Let's get some yellow ochre. Still got to be fairly keyed down, so there's a lot of ultramarine blue in there. I don't want it to be too intense because it is a long way away. I think I'll go a bit more green. A little bit of burnt sienna with that maybe. Let's see what we get. It's all an adventure, isn't it? So I've got a bit of Viridian green burnt sienna. A little bit more blue. I can go about there. But I need something a little more intense than that, so we'll add a little bit more green, a little bit more blue, and of course there's going to be less white as it goes closer. Viridian green and blue again. It's getting less white the closer and closer I get. That just needs a bit of burnt sienna. I'm just going to fine tune that colour. It depends what colour the bottom is as to what colour the ocean will be. And I'm feeling like the colour of the sand down this beach has a little bit more of a brown aspect rather than a white. And because of that, it just makes the water a little bit more of a olive green, I guess you could say, rather than too much of a turquoise. Feel it in, feel it in. Now I'll just go a bit even darker as we're getting closer. Burnt sienna, Viridian green, yellow ochre. Seems to be coming along like a nice colour. That's a beautiful deep colour. Plenty to block in, so we'll just keep running around for a while. Maybe stop talking so much and get a bit more work done. Viridian green. Just going even deeper here, like really dark deep colours, because we're looking straight down here. It's quite deep. Because it is so deep, we want to make it a deep tonal value. Right. Burnt sienna. Ultramarine blue, Viridian green. Wow, that is deep, isn't it? Try to just get all this in without messing around too much. Getting too much paint on the old bench, we don't want that. Oh, well, that's looking good. Hang on, let's just have a look. That's all good, but now we need some seaweed colour, which will be more of maybe ultramarine blue and magenta. Let's just see what we got. It's super dark. Super dark, maybe a bit too dark. Just lighten it a tad. It is quite dark looking into the weed. The weed is very dark. It's more of a red dominance I've got for the colour of the weed itself, so there's the magenta-y colour. And when I say the weed, I also mean the rock, like it's the underground. You got this rock face here when it's underwater. It's got weed growing on it, obviously, but you can also see the rock itself. And it's a darker value and more of those blues and browns and stuff like that. Moving around, keep getting things done. few lighter tones in there, there's a bit of foam, a bit of that stuff. Alright, we'll just keep on moving around, go for some white, turquoise, yellow. So it's very clean colours here. I just want some really high key clean colours. Yellow, turquoise, which is a viridian green today. Viridian green and yellow ochre. It's making a nice kind of beachy colour, shallow water colour like so. I can go in there. Nice, nice. Twang of it in there. Alright, so what I'm going to do is, it's looking a bit chaotic at the moment, I'm getting the bulk of the colours in. What I'm going to do is get some brushes and move it all around a little to soften it off, and you'll see it'll start to take shape a bit quicker, in theory. So we'll just, like I said, I'll use the brush mainly just for softening and blending, but the bulk of the paint was put on with a knife, so I've got plenty of paint to chunk around and play with. Get that down like so, that's coming in nicely. Good random variety of marks going on here, little short marks, long marks, whatever you want. Just gives the illusion of detail when you've got all that going on. Let's get that going. It's blending up nicely. Filming good. It's coming along good, yep. Plenty of distance. Still a high key colour like I was saying, because there's plenty of distance involved. Just pull through like so. Just quick marks. Just to soften that water. Right, yep. Pull through here. Just trying to give the illusion of a wet sand now. So, the wet rocks here, and they've just got, you've got the wet rocks with the weed, like I was saying, but that little hint of that blue from the sky in the brush is just making it look like it's picking up the reflection of the sky, like that, boom, boom. I've done enough of that, now let's go to this. Just move it around, all around lovely. Be easier to get into the corner here with the brush. Whoop. Here we go. I'm going to wear some stuff in a minute, I can see it. It's a little bit easier to get into there. Alright. Alright, so that's just that. I'll get back into other stuff now. I just want to have a quick look. Alright, what have we got here now? Mix up more of these yellow ochres. Going to get back into that foliage up on the sand dune here itself. Bit of magenta in that to knock it back a bit. Lighten the value a little. Let's see what we got here. Just trying to lighten that value. It's all about light and shadow in I just want to get the tonal values right, so it's got to be slightly lighter value. And I feel like it needs a little bit more warmth than I've been mixing, so I'll go for some burnt siennas and yellow ochre. Let me have a look. It's not too far off the mark, I guess. I can see there's a massive dark tonal value going on here, which I haven't quite got in yet, and I should be going for the big impression of different blocks of colours. Just here's quite dark. Let's just take that back a bit. I've used a knife then to take some off. And what I do now is I want that to be quite a dark value in there. So I'm using burnt siennas and viridian greens. Like so. Just a little bit here and there to give the feeling of, you've got the two shadows there. You've got the shadow of the sand itself, and then you've got the shadow of the foliage. And they're two different colours, aren't they? So I'm just making the shadow of the foliage, and the shadow of the sand is that pale blue. All right. They're all subtle tonal variances. And as I go back, going to add in a little bit more magentas into the mix. We'll just lighten that value. It's very subtle. I'm just trying to send off with the aerial perspective as the headland's receding, trying to make it less chromatically intense, more of a distance, using blues and magentas. Set it off into the distance, and I'll try and get a variety on the of shapes as the headland cuts along. It's getting close. Just add even a little bit more blue now as the headland drops down into here. Alrighty, let's have a look. Alright, so currently what we've got here is a lot of cool tonal values, I guess you could say, and a lot of dark tonal values. Now what we need is some of the light source, the sunlight and whatever else, where the light's actually warming up with warmer tonal values. So we'll go for white. Let's get white. Yellow ochre. Nice and light. Alright, now if I could go cad orange. I'll just put the tiniest bit of cad orange or cad yellow, one of those ones. Just want to create a nice colour to put on the beach for the beach sand. So there's a bit of cad orange in that with the yellow ochre, and the cad orange is kind of richening it up, I guess, and not making it so, not too yellow. There's a bit of morning light going along here, so it's a nice warm colour, and like I said, the sand on this particular beach is very much of a warm sandy colour. Stick that in for now. You can go along there like that. Rub that off. Bonus is the knife, you can rub it clean each time. Burnt sienna is a good colour for earthy colours too, so I'll go a bit of burnt sienna, yellow ochre and cads. A bit more burnt sienna, yellow ochre. I'm trying to really richen up now, because what I want to do is going to paint some of that gorgeous Sphinx rock itself. This rock formation. It's a beautiful thing. Let's just put some of that on. Lightly touching. Like so. As I get lower, things are changing as you get lower. Where the water meets, a bit of viridian green, burnt sienna, yellow ochre, where the water is actually meeting the rock itself, where it gets wet in a high and low tide, it actually goes a little bit more of this colour, like more of a rich version, I guess you could say, like that. Lighten that one off. Beautiful rock formation. There we go. Alright, with a slightly smaller knife, get those ochres and whatever else I just whipped up. Lightly place. What I'm trying to do here is give the feeling of the sand dune. So I'm just lightly letting it catch. Let's go a little bit lighter in tonal value. We've painted the shadow, the blue kind of colour is the shadow of the sand dunes. And now, we're painting the light source. Right, mix up a bit of blue and white. Just going to introduce a little bit more of that blue across the rock pools. Just lightly dragging across. Trying to give that feeling of reflected light from the sky and wetness. Right, now, where are we? Viridian green, blue, burnt sienna. Just going for that deep watercolour again. I just want to get the right value in here of what colour water I'm going to be dealing with. It's a little bit darker than I had it because it's a bit deeper. Go in there like that, a bit of variety in marks. Blue. There's a lot going on in this picture, a lot of subtle things, but if you get them all right and they sit all next to each other, they'll start to really, really pop. Painting some of the deeper rock pools there, so I'm painting some slightly darker colours in there where the water is beautiful and deep. It's all happening. Alright, I've got the white board there, but what I will do is just start introducing a bit more of the surf. Just key it off a tad with some of these other colours that are lying around on the palette, a bit of the browns and a bit of the blues, so it's not pure white. I will use the pure white eventually. What I'm trying to do is just soften and add a bit more of the surf in. Pull that through. I don't want it to be so scratchy, if you know what I'm saying, so I'll just get this in. Get paint on the board, and then we can blend it beautifully. What is it to blend then? Put some in here. Plenty of softness and breaking softness down in these corners. Nice. Can leave a bit of pure white here and there, the pure white of the board itself, for sure. Soften. There we go. It's all happening. A little bit out this way. A bit more introduced out there. With this knife, just going to do a bit of blending so that sort of white foamed up water is more subtly blending, using little marks here and there, bringing them all together, bringing the green of the ocean into the whites. So those little bubbles, when the wave breaks you get those beautiful whites, that's all the air bubbles. Just blend them in. And then pull through for some clean marks. Scrape some paint off too, you can even do it that way, there's another way of doing it. So once you've got the paint on, use the knife and scrape back and you can see those clean yellows just there I produced, they came from underneath, paint that I'd already put in. Just show you that technique again, just pull through like that, I'm actually taking paint off there. Clean knife, I'm just going to take a little bit of paint off here and there and adding and taking away. Alright, so I've just introduced a little bit of chrome yellow here. You can use any sort of high key yellow with viridian green. I want to make some of this weed just slightly stronger chromatic saturation than I could get before. So the best way to do it is just to go up a scale in colour. So we've got viridian green. Just rub a little bit of that on here and there. Bring that weed up a little so she starts to pop a bit more. Get some clean white. Start picking out some of the breaking bits of foam here and there. Just more refined rather than just being thrashed in. Trying to get a little bit more clarity as to what's going on over here. Had to start off by just putting all sorts of things in, and then slowly refine. Got to get the major colour and tones in. Once you've got them in, you can start reeling around the picture and seeing what needs to be done as far as more subtle finished work. Pull it through. So I'm moving around, putting a few bright colours like so on, just flicking a few in here and there to help sting it up, get that weed really popping. So, at the same time then getting some clean whites, being very clean with the marks I put on. Just got to work out where you don't want to... Every mark you put on really means something at this later stage in the painting, so as you stick them on you've got to make sure you're putting them in the right place. Getting there, getting there. Right, well, we are starting to get there, which is great. Now, just get this tiny little knife. Why not muck around with a little knife as well? Stick some small refining marks in to give the feeling of detail and refinement and finish, obviously. You've got your big major colours and tones in. Now, with some fine marks, but not too many, you can start to bring the painting right up. Lovely little marks here and there just to give the illusion of high finish. What else are we going to play on here? Well, all right, it's getting pretty good now. In fact, I might just leave it alone because what I've got is very spontaneous, just like a plein air painting. And as you know, that's my favourite way of painting, plein air. And when I come home in the studio, I want that same sort of energy, that magical directness from the subject, I guess you could say. And because I'm fresh home from this particular painting trip, got tons of great footage, as you've seen. just get stuck into it, and I love to feel that energy of the moment, and I feel like I've got that. Now if I go any further, I could easily make it look more photographic and maybe even more realistic, but at the same time that movement and energy of the particular day can get lost. So pretty happy with all that. I've got a lot of frantic marks in here, so it looks like there's a lot of motion in the waves. The foreground here I've richened up, as I was saying, as I was explaining, like there's quite rich colours running through here. Added a bit of chrome yellow, got that out of the tube just to pull it right up. As I receded, you saw that I softened and lightened the tonal values as it went back, and back here there's less detail. Everything's much more horizontal, I guess you could say, and much more relaxed and lying flat to give the illusion of distance. And up here, I guess there's more chaos going on, busyness, and that's how your eyes see it. Up close there's a lot of activity, and off in the distance it all seems to lie flat. So pretty happy about that. Got a little breaking wave here and there just to suggest, in amongst all the white foam, just put up some a clean few marks here and there to actually suggest what the marks are. And in the case of all this white breaking waves, every now and then it's good to get a wave and make it a clean, obvious wave, and then your mind sees it, sees the rest of the white stuff as waves also, instead of sheep or something like that. Okay, now as far as the cliff, you saw me put all the undertones in first, all the shadows. So I've got some warm ochres in there, some cool blues, a nice shadow cast out over there, and then on top I laid, quite thickly, laid the paint on, just letting it sit on top of those shadows, and that gives you that beautiful feeling of light and shadow. On the whole, pretty happy with what's going on. What I've done down here is really soften, because I wanted to give the contrast between softness of water and chunkiness of cliff. So down here, when we get the camera off and come close in, you'll see that it's actually quite smooth. Like I got the brush and really smoothed it off, decided to do that, and left it chunky there, and you get that great contrast. So I feel pretty happy that I've achieved something there. All right, now let's just come in now and have a close look at the technique and see what you guys think. Right.